Welcome to Tyne Valley Motorhomes. I'm Callum and this is the handover of the all new Elddis Signature 115. So first of all, the colour is slightly different, so we've chosen Lanzarote grey opposed to the azure blue that we used to have in the Signature range because Fiat and Peugeot have now discontinued this colour. And the vehicle has slightly grown, so it used to be 18 foot, 5.7 metres, it is now 6.15 metres, weighing in at 20 foot. So as we start the walk around on the driver's side of the vehicle first, using the habitation key, which is the tri-mark key, you can open all your lockers. And this locker here is your battery locker. So this is where your leisure battery lives, which is a Varta 85 amp hour battery. And it's also where you can hook the vehicle up to mains power. So if you are charging it at home prior to your trip or over the winter, or if you arrive on your site, you get your hookup lead, slide the wire behind the door and always hook the motorhome up first, then the site, so it means that you're never walking around with a live lead. Underneath you do have a main socket in there as well, so if you're wanting power in the awning, get an extension lead, connect it in there, put the wire through here and put the extension underneath the van, and you have power in your air awning on the other side of the motorhome. Seal that up once you're connected. It means that your hookup lead can't be taken out of the vehicle and it is all watertight. Intake for your hot water system, so this will drip from time to time. It's just a condensing boiler, and that's obviously your intake there as well, intake and a breather pipe. External shower, which is a cold water fed shower. So inside the vehicle you'll have a hose pipe with a hose pipe fitting, and on the other end you'll have a trigger gun. As long as the pump's on, you'll be able to remove the stopper, connect, it's like a hose pipe at home, and hose the dogs off, the boots, the bikes, so that you're not bringing sand or anything into the van, but it is only cold water. Your fresh water drain off point. So this is how you drain off your fresh water if you've taken on a source of contaminated water. You drain that down for the winter, or you're just not using it for a while. No real reason to hold the water, so just open it up and allow the water out. Come around the back of the van, you do have your high level brake light and rear view camera. Cassette toilet, so this is a Fetford cassette. You lift the orange handle and slide the cassette out of the van. You can then carry it, or you can wheel it to your waste disposal point, which is normally beside your toilet block on site. And to empty, remove the grey cap, pop that to the side for a moment, start to pour the cassette, press the orange button at the back, allows a bit of air in, stops it glugging, gives it a consistent flow. Tip the water out the cassette or the waste. Once you've done that, there's normally a tap there, so just pop some water in, put the lid back on, give it a rinse, tip out again before going in with a cap full of liquid. It is 120 ml of either green or blue chemical. Ask your sites which they prefer, because a lot of them now prefer the green opposed to the blue, but you can find that out when you arrive or when you book your site. This is how you fill the vehicle with the fresh water. So on the key you've got a small little key, which is just a universal key to lock this flap. And all you need to do is put the hose pipe in there and fill it until it overflows. So wedge it between the two lugs, fill it until it overflows, which is the best way, or you can look on board your control panel and see how much water you've got on board at any one time. If you ever wanted to fit a bike rack, these are Fiamma bike rack bars, so you can get a Fiamma bike rack to suit Pro C, Pro E if you want an electric bikes. They do just clip onto here. 2 fridge vents. If you plan on doing a bit of outdoor cooking when the weather's like it is today, you can put this fitting here. Needs to be clipped off with a pair of scissors or some snips. This end goes into here, and this end with the ribs connects to the hose. So you need to get yourself some orange gas hose in, 2 Jubilee clips to connect the fitting onto the gas hose and the fitting onto the barbecue or Kadak. Pop that in. Once that's in, you can turn it on and you can use the main bottle supply on board the vehicle instead of carrying a spare bottle for your barbecue. Awning light, awning, domestic awning. This is your wastewater, so anything that you've put down the plug hole, so shower water, dishes water, cups of tea, hand basin water, anything like that. On the way out of your site, if you're not on a super pitch where you can have this open and you can get a bit of hose and leave it open all the time. If you're just on a conventional hard standing pitch, drive over the grid on the way out of your site, open it up and allow this water out. You don't want to be driving around with this water in the van because it's just going to add weight to the vehicle, unnecessary weight. It's going to use more diesel because your vehicle's heavier. It's also going to impact your payload, whereas you could have more of your own personal items on board instead of carrying dirty water and taking up the weight that way. So always allow that out, leave it open, and then leave it slightly open when you're driving at home, and it'll rock any loose water out. And obviously in the winter you want to ensure that this is fully drained off as well. LPG, so liquid petroleum gas, this is your gas locker. So again with the same tri-mark key, you can open this. I've got my test bottle on here because I'm going to show you how your appliances inside the vehicle work. So this is a 6 kilogram propane gas bottle, and you can fit 2 of these in here. So you can fit 1 and a spare. When you put the bottle in, always make sure it's tied in with a strap so it's nice and safe and secure. And to connect this orange hose to the top of the bottle, which is known as a pigtail, it's left to tighten, right to loosen, so opposite ways with it being gas. And then all you need to do is get yourself a gas spanner like mine or an adjustable wrench and nip it up. Once you've nipped it up, you can then turn the cylinder on, but don't turn the cylinder all the way on, because if you've ever got to turn it off quickly, you'll be forever screwing the bottle. So when you've turned it off, just turn it a couple of turns on. That's enough to allow the gas through. And then always make sure you turn the bottle off before you start driving. So when you unhook the vehicle and you're checking everything shut, turn your gas off. If this gas bottle ever became empty, it's a good idea to carry a spare, and you can just take the pigtail off and put it on your reserve bottle and then go and exchange the bottle that's empty. Here at the passenger door of the cab, you have your diesel fill out, opens with the main ignition key, and you've also got AdBlue. So AdBlue is 19 litres on a Peugeot Boxer, and what that does is it cleans the exhaust system out so that it's nice and clean and it's not a polluting diesel vehicle. But it'll do 5,500 miles on a full tank of AdBlue. But normally once you've covered 4,000 miles and you tend to have 1,500 miles left, it'll bring a light up on the dash just indicating, looks like an exhaust light, just indicating that it does need some more AdBlue liquid. And you can buy that in the drums of 10 or 5 litres or at the pump now for as little as £1.10 a litre, so it's quite cheap to buy on the pump. Tyre pressures can be found here, so 5 bar on the front, which is 72.3 psi, and 5.5 bar on the back, which is 79.5 psi. Underneath the passenger seat is where you've got your toolkit, so this does pull off, this slides out, and you've got a jack in the brace and a tow eye. Underneath this compartment in the car floor is where the engine battery lives. It's because it's not underneath the bonnet, it's underneath here on a Ducato, same as on a Boxer, should I say, same as a Ducato. And underneath the bonnet you do have your screen wash. 3 tabs here lifts this part of the scuttle panel off, and you can fill your power steering fluid and your coolant. Then you've got your brake fluid, you've got your oil filler and your oil dipstick. Paint codes on here. Earthen point for giving or receiving a jump start. Beside the air intake, you've got the fuse board for the vehicle, which is the one underneath the the bonnet. There's one inside underneath the dash as well. This is your positive terminal for giving or receiving a jump start off the vehicle. So you've earth up here, so black on there, red on here to give or receive a jump start. Weight plate, so 3.5 ton gross vehicle weight. So you can see there they're a little bit heavier now. The 115s used to be 3.3 ton, they're now 3.5. If you want to put a tow bar on and tow with this, you can tow 2 ton behind the vehicle, meaning that the vehicle and the trailer can't go over 5.5 ton. And you've got your unique build number at the bottom, so if you ever need to talk to Elddis or want any parts for the vehicle, if you quote that, we'll be able to get the right parts for the vehicle. So to operate a Dometic awning using the Dometic winding handle, pop it in the winding slot on the awning and wind the front of the awning out until you can reach inside of the canopy. So you want to reach inside of here because there's 2 legs to stabilise the weight of the canopy. So do about there. Foot pushes in this side, slides along the rail, and you want to click it in, lift this up, and allow you to adjust the telescopic height of the telescopic leg, and this gets pushed down and the cover drops back down. So you want to get, so again, leg pushes this way, slides down till it clips into place. Just the telescopic height of the awning so it matches the other leg. And then what you can do is you can walk the awning out the rest of the way. So just wind and just move the legs out until you have reached full capacity. Peg the legs down, but what I like to do is these arms here go flat. I always like to keep them on a bit of a bend because it holds the canopy better on the canvas. Because at full extension, and never have it so that the canopy's loose, always take it back a bit so that the canvas on the canopy is taut, because otherwise water and things could sit in there. So always keep it taut, peg your feet down. You can buy storm straps for them, but with the awnings, any wind speed over 15 miles an hour, take your awning in, because it's unsafe to have the awning out, because it can cause unnecessary damage to the vehicle next to you or your vehicle or your awning itself. And if you ever leave it unattended, so you go out for the day or go to bed, always make sure that your awnings are brought in. And then to bring your awning back in reverse, you want to drop the leg down. There's a little lug here that you need to press down, which allows the leg to then go back into the awning. So that goes in like that. That clips in there. That down there. Press your end piece so that it can. So this you would push down, slide it in, slide that all the way in. Lie your leg flat, push it in so the foot clips in, and then wind the awning. Ever need any parts for your awning, there's a sticker there that tells you the model number. We will require that to speak to Dometic for parts, or whoever you go to, motor home dealer wise, get the parts that will need the model number of the awning. Wind it in, and then you might be wondering why the awning handle's stuck in the vehicle. So what you need to do is you need to push it up and turn without bringing the awning out, and it's just because it's a bayonet fitting. So to operate your 12-volt control panel, when you come on board, you've got your master switch, which is this on-off button here. And this will supply the 12-volt power from the leisure battery to all 12-volt items on board the vehicle. So you need to turn that on, and obviously turn it off when you're leaving the van in storage or not in use. I'll stop the power drain. You've got your pump, so you need to turn your pump on. So just press that. And then as soon as you open the taps, toilet or shower, they've all got an inbuilt micro switch. So what that'll do is, When it detects the flow of water, the pump will pressurize and kick in to pressurize the flow of water. Underneath you've got your master switch for your interior lights. You've got to have this switch turned on to then switch the switches around the vehicle to turn on each individual light. And you've got your awning light, which is the light on the outside of the motorhome. Here you've got your readings, so you've got your reading of your leisure battery. Take the hookup out of the vehicle to get a true reading of the leisure battery, because with the hookup in, it'll give a false reading because the charger is charging the leisure battery. And then you do have your freshwater reading here, but the best way with the Elddis water gauges is just to make sure that when you fill them, you put the hose in and fill it until it overflows on the outside of the vehicle. This is when you know that your tank is full. And then this is your entrance lights, which does the lights in the lounge just up here. So to operate your heating and hot water, which is wheel heat air controls, you've got to put your hand within proximity of the controls and it will take them out of sleep mode. So starting off with the heating of the vehicle first, using the plus and minus, you've got frost start, which is approximately 5 degrees, but then you do have to have either the gas or electric on to enable this to work, which I'll get onto in a moment. You've got nighttime mode, which is the moon, which is approximately 15 degrees, and then you can bring it all the way around to the max temperature of 30 degrees. Gas, press it, goes blue, that means the gas is on standby, and then it will go to orange and ignite once it's pulled the gas through to the heater via the gas supply of the vehicle. Once the vehicle has reached its temperature set, the gas will go back onto standby, which is blue, until it drops and the thermostat picks up that it's dropped temperature, and then it will kick back in and ignite to warm the vehicle back up. You'd use gas if you were wild camping. If you're on a site, you can use electric, so you've got 3 different power supply outputs on the gas. So depending on how much electric you've got on your site and what the amperage they're giving you is, you've got one, so just press and hold, you've got one which is 750 watts, you've got 2 which is 1500 watts, and you've got 3 which is 3000 watts. And you can see that's gone on to orange now, which means it's ignited on electric. But you can put the gas on as well, and this is what's called boost. So if you needed to boost the temperature of the vehicle, you can put both on together and it will maximize both sources, which will reduce the time it takes to heat the vehicle. Should you get a red exclamation mark down the side, you've got a reset button here. But what you can do is you can press the red exclamation mark and it will tell you on these codes here, so many bars will light up and it will give you the fault code. But press and hold the button, which will restart the control panel and eliminate the fault. To operate the hot water system, so again you've got frost start, which is 5 degrees, keeps the water in the boiler above 5 degrees, but again you do have to have gas or electric available to the vehicle. Should you not have that in the winter, we strongly advise that you winterize and get rid of all the water on board. You've got eco mode, which is heats the water to approximately 50 degrees, and then you've got full heat, which is 70 degrees down here. Gas, if you're wild camping, or you've got 750 watts of electric, 1500 watts of electric, and 3 kilowatts, or 3000 watts should I say, of electric. Press the gas flame, blue means it's on standby. Once it goes to orange, like the temperature for the heating has on gas, it is working on gas. And again, once that water gets the temperature, whatever source you've got it on, whether it be gas or electric, it'll go back onto standby until the water cools down before it kicks back in. So don't worry if you've put it on, it's gone to orange, and then 20 minutes later it's back on blue. Just means your water or your vehicle is up to temperature. And you can see there that they've both come on and they're both working. Again, both settings together is boost. So you might want to boost your hot water if you're in desperate need of hot water for a shower. And then once you've boosted it, just turn your gas off and allow the electric to continue to heat the water if you're on a site, as you wouldn't want to waste your gas when you've paid your site fees to use their electric. And that are your wheel heat air controls. Reset buttons can be found on the bottom of both dials. So in the kitchen on the 115, which is located at the back of the van, you've got 3 gas, 1 electric hot plate. So the electric hot plate will work when you're hooked up to mains. So when you're on your site, to avoid using the gas, you can use the electric hot plate if you want, and you can turn it on. It'll get warm on 230 volt. And then once you have had it on, if you do, just allow it to cool down before you put the glass lid down. And that's the same with the gas as well as the electric. Allow everything on the top to cool before you put this lid down, otherwise there's a chance you could shatter the glass with it being too hot. If you didn't want to use your hot plate or you were wild camping, you can use your gas. So you've got an ignition there. And there you have 3 lit gas rings. And underneath you've got your grill, and under your grill you've got your oven. Directly underneath the oven you do have some storage. We've got your electric hot plate plug, so if there's any problems with that you can just unplug it or turn it off. And then just down here you've got 2 gas isolation valves, which are these grey valves, one for the fridge and one for the oven assembly. Any problems with gas, turn the bottle off to be safe. But if you did want to isolate one of these gas lines, all you need to do is, these are both on at the moment, turn it like so, and this is off, and it will shut the gas supply off to the item by closing the valve from the gas bottle. But these are mainly for when the vehicle is annually serviced. We've also checked your hot water system, and as you can see there, the hot water is working as it should. You can see the steam coming off the water, and the water pump is working as well because it's pressurising the water that's coming out the tap. Above you do have some storage. You've got cups and plate racks. These are just screwed in, so if you did want to remove them and put your own racking system in, you can. But make sure you push the catches and the bottoms of the doors to release the door, not just pull them, otherwise you could break the catch. Little bit of worktop extension, so if you wanted to put your chopping board on there when you're using the hob for meal prep, you can. Slide out trays, and you've got a small little cupboard at the bottom. So to operate your Dometic fridge, so you've got a fridge with a freezer compartment there, which is removable should you wish. This is a removable compartment. To operate the fridge, you can operate it on 3 different sources. So you've got off at the top, and if you were leaving it turned off in storage or parked on the drive when you're not using it, and especially over the winter when you could potentially be standing the vehicle up for 3 or 4 months, you want to ensure that the door's left open, because it's got a rubber seal on and it'll be form an airtight seal and trap the air in, and it'll start to smell, and mould and things will start to grow in your fridge, which is not what you want. So on the light here, if you push the button in and pull it forward, these 2 pins on the sliders come out, and what happens is, if I rest the door upon it, it's loose, and get my hands down the seal so air can circulate around. So we recommend that when you're not using it, it's parked up, just to leave the door open. Getting back onto how to use it, so you've got off on the top, mains 230 volt. So if you are on a site and you've paid for electric on that as part of your site fee, use their electric to operate as many things in the van as possible, including the fridge, and this will act as a household fridge on mains 230 volt. The same as if you were hooking it up at home, you'd want to put it on mains to bring the temperature of the fridge down first before you put your shopping in. So generally what you do is you want to hook it up a few days beforehand so that you can charge your leisure battery. At this time when you hook it up, just pop your fridge straight on, and then the night before put your shopping in, allow it to chill overnight, and then you can drive away the next day. When you're driving and it's already down to temperature, so if you're moving from one site to another site, or if you've done what I've just previously mentioned about chilling it at home and then ready to drive, put on the battery. The battery is a 12 volt battery, which is a feed from the alternator, not the leisure battery. The leisure battery cannot operate the fridge. So it's only when the vehicle is running, the engine gives a feed to the fridge, which acts like a giant cool box, and it will keep it at the same temperature so that your shopping's nice and fresh and edible when you arrive back on your site and either go back to mains, or if you're going wild camping or don't have mains 230 volt hookup, you'd have to use gas, which is at the bottom. This is your temperature, and you need to push that in and press the spark ignition to get it going on gas, and this orange band starts to go into the green. And as you can see there, it's starting to move closer to green. Once it starts moving, let go of the ignition, just keep holding the temperature knob until it's in the green, and then you can let go. And as you see there, that is lit on gas. You can then adjust the temperature, so when pre-chilling, always have it on full. When you put your shopping in, turn it down a bit, because sometimes it is just a bit too strong and can freeze the shopping. Also fitted to this model, you do have a Russell Hobbs microwave, which is an 800 watt mains microwave. And the plug for that is above here, so if you ever need to isolate it, you can turn it off and unplug it. If you're not using the microwave and you've got things charging, you can utilise that plug up here as well. And you've also got your TV aerial up here. So this is a Teleco TV aerial. TV boosters at the back, so you can amplify the signal. If it's still pixelating, try bringing the signal amplifier down, because sometimes the amplifier can be causing a problem by making the signal too strong. Failing that, it would be time to move your aerial, so you would loosen the nut off, look where your other motorhomes and caravans are pointing on your site, and push your aerial up, tighten just so it holds the aerial higher than the van, and use this black collar and you can adjust it, and what that does is it leans the aerial from side to side until you get the perfect picture. But like I say, look where your other motorhomes and caravans are pointing, and then you shouldn't have to mess around for too long. And then always, before you do start driving the vehicle, you want to ensure that the aerial is pulled back into the vehicle so that the wind doesn't damage it. So you just loosen the nut off, pull it in, tighten the nut off so that it's nice and safe and secure inside the van. Underneath, storage drawer, some storage in there. That is part of your wheel well as well here, so you've got some storage above. Then at the front, two USBs, two 230 volt sockets. You've got to be hooked up for them to work, so if you're not hooked up and you try connecting to them and they're not working, it's because they are a main socket. And you do have a television aerial point there and a 12 volt point. So if you are getting a telly, I would always recommend a 12 volt telly, either the Avtex, which is brilliant throughout the leisure industry, or the Cello TVs. Connect there, and obviously you do have a space for it to either stand, or you can get it, or ask your motorhome and caravan dealers like us, and we'll be able to fit a TV bracket to here for the telly to sit in there, depending on the size. So in the wardrobe, you do have your solar panel charger, so that's got its green lights on there, which is saying that the battery is full. So the leisure battery is full, so that only provides charge to the leisure battery, and you've got a fuse there. So if you ever get no light on the solar panel controller, there's a fuse here. So you just remove it and pop a new fuse in. So if it ever blows a fuse and there's no lights on it, it's probably going to be the fuse. So you could change and replenish the fuse. But that's telling you that the solar panel is charged and fully charged your leisure battery, but you are hooked up at the moment. So hook up always means priority to a battery anyway, so the solar panel will go to sleep. And new on the Elddis range is a Roma Max View 4G Wi-Fi system. So you need to go and get yourself a data only SIM card, and I would personally stick to the bigger providers such as EE, Vodafone, because what I've heard is that SmartySIM is a use threes network, so it piggybacks three. It's not a main provider, so stick to the main providers. You can pop this out of here, and on the back it's got all your passwords and user details on for connecting your devices, and you've got on the front of it there is a space to put a SIM card in, which is just down here. So your SIM goes here, you can put a little pin in there and pull the tray out and put your SIM card in. This is just your mains wire, and you can connect two LAN cables to it, so if you want to hardwire something you can as well. But this is wireless, so as long as you are in an area that picks up good enough signal, this will pick up a signal for Wi-Fi. So if you're wanting to get a smart TV and watch a bit of Netflix when you're away, or Amazon Prime, instead of piggybacking off your phone, you can put a SIM card in there and use the Wi-Fi within the vehicle. Underneath you do have your freestanding table, and then before we get onto here, which is quite important, so underneath here is a water pump. So your water pump for your vehicle lives under here. So in the winter, when winterizing the van, you want to ensure that you've blown your water pump out, because the water sits in the pump. So what I always do is start with the outside of the van and empty the fresh and the waste, and leave them taps fully open in the winter. Come into the motorhome, drain the boiler off, open all the taps within the van, and then once I've opened the taps and I know there's no water in the van, I'll turn the pump on for approximately 5 to 10 seconds just to blow any water out in any pipes or the pump itself. And then for the sake of it, this is a filter. This filter is just on a push fitting. You can pop it out and take the filter off if you want, just so that no water's sitting in there and potentially causing any damage to the pump. Or as long as you've blew the water out of the pump by turning the pump on, opening the tap for 10 seconds, waiting until it's spat the water out and turning it back off, there will be no water in this. But just to avoid frost damage and cause any damage to the pump, it's always best to do this. In your washroom, which is located in the corner of the 115, you do have your toilet. So to operate your toilet, make sure the pump's on and press the blue button on the back, which you'll get a freshwater feed of water from the main freshwater tank. So press it, put a small amount of water in the toilet, and then before you think about using it, you want to open the blade. So this is this grey handle here. So slide it to the right. It opens the blade. It means that the blade doesn't get messy and everything goes into the cassette. Flush it after. If you've got any pink liquid, if you have bought it, which is a bowl cleaner, what you can do is put a small amount of pink into an empty spray bottle, the rest water. Spray the bowl now, flush, and then close the blade. Ensuring that the blade is closed, when the cassette indicates that it's full with 3 green lights underneath here, you can pull the cassette out the side or the back of the vehicle. Here you do have your sink, so it's got a push plug. You can see there that and you've got your shower head. So when winterizing, if you just unscrew it, you can see there it's holding some water. Just unscrew it and lie this hose down like that in the shower tray. It'll mean that any water in this pipe drains out because you would leave the mixer tap throughout the van left in the open position. And then when you're ready to reuse it, you just assemble the shower head again and stand it in its stand. Located in the lounge, just underneath your seats, you do have your fuse board. So this is your consumer unit. So you've got all your 230 volt items. So you've got 3 MCBs, or should I say 4 MCBs and 1 RCD. If you ever think you're not receiving power, there's 2 ways to check. One, if the vehicle's fitted with a microwave, check that the microwave comes on. That is a mains voltage appliance. Or plug a mains voltage appliance in. If you're still struggling, trip the vehicle. If the vehicle trips, you've got power. If it doesn't trip, you haven't got power. So it's not the motorhome, it's where you get the power from. So this is all your 230 volt, and then to operate your 12 volt side, which comes off the leisure battery, you've got all your 12 volt fuses here. So they're all listed. It would be a good idea to carry some spares just in case one does blow. What you can do is you can pick the fuse out. So say it was this 10 amp. Check the fuse. As you can see there, that fuse is intact because the middle is alright. The middle would be blown if it was a bad fuse, and you can replenish it with the fuse and solve your problem. So do carry a small little toolkit in the van with fuses, bits and pieces that you'll need just in case anything was to happen when you were away. You can solve your own problem. And then there is a little rocker switch which is right at the bottom. It's quite hard to see. You can just get your finger in there. As this is our signature and we have spec'd this, we have put heated tanks on it. So if you're away in the winter and it's going to freeze overnight, you turn this on and it'll just keep the water above freezing so that the water in the tanks don't go to a big block of ice and split the tanks and cause any damage when you're using it. So pop that on just before you go to bed, or if you're away in the cold, and it'll stop the water from freezing. So located underneath the bench seat behind the driver's seat, you've obviously got the back of your battery box where you hook up. You've got another gas isolation tap for your boiler. So if you ever need to isolate the gas supply to that, you just turn the tap, but again, mainly for when it is serviced. And you've also got your boiler in here. So your boiler is it's an underslung boiler, so it sits in the floor of the vehicle. But it's very important that in the winter, when you're not using it, you drain the water out, because the water isn't warm, it's cold. The outside air temperature will make it freeze and cause damage to the boiler, which isn't covered under Elldis' warranty, as it's your responsibility to drain the vehicle down. And to do this, you need to use the yellow tap. So the yellow tap is known as your winter drain down tap. And when it's pointing to the side wall on the driver's side, it is closed. However, you need to open this to stop the water from freezing. So you would point it to the back of the vehicle, and if you listen, you'll hear the water draining directly out underneath the van. So it'll hit the floor underneath the vehicle. It drains out 10 litres, so this boiler holds 10 litres at any one time. It drains out 10 litres, and then when you're ready to reuse it, you would just shut it off, shut all the taps within the van, shut the freshener waste, fill the vehicle with water via a hose pipe from home or on your first sight of the year, and prime the system. So you need to prime the system by cold side of the tap first. You'll get an automatic cold water feed because the cold's coming directly out of the main fresh tank. And then if you go to the hot side, it'll cough and splutter, and this is purging the water through until you get a pressurized flow. So it'll cough and splutter for 3 or 4 minutes. Don't be alarmed, let it do its thing. And then when you get a pressurized flow, start off with the kitchen, then make your way around the bathroom, do all the taps, and then you're good to go. And as you can see, if you look at this loom here coming out of the back of the battery, which is your terminals to the battery, there's a main 25 amp fuse here, which is your main battery fuse. So if you've checked all the other fuses and you're still not getting 12 volt, try this fuse. It's probably never going to be this fuse because this would turn off all the 12 volt in the van, but if you weren't receiving 12 volt, it might be this fuse because this is the main fuse of the battery. So keep a 25 amp fuse handy and replenish the fuse should you ever need to. So to make your bed up, if you don't want to use them as two singles, whereas if you did use them as singles, you could take the backrests off and give you a wider bit of bed space. If not, the forms a double. Slide these out to meet each other. Pop these into the middle. And that forms your double bed across the width of the van. What I would personally do is turn everything upside down, because if you look at the back of the cushion, you've got a flat surface to sleep on, whereas at the front you've got the curvedness of the cushion, which is the bullnose, and the rib for the design. So if you turn them upside down, you get a flatter surface to sleep upon.